Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kickball Podcast. Part of what we do is just trying to make sure that we get all the stories told from all across the United States, whether it's players or executives. And today we have another fantastic executive with us today, Miss Elaine Hitchcock. How are you today, Miss?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Even better than that now that we get to have this conversation here. And yeah, I really appreciate the time again. I know I talked about it before we started recording, but I'm really excited to get this conversation going.
You're super excited to talk about everything we have going on.
So if you wouldn't mind, I mean, tell us a little bit about, who you are firstly, because you're not quite a player that we see on the pitch every day, but you're still someone that helps out a lot with specifically Columbus United, as we were talking about, with getting a lot of the community initiatives going, make sure that a team is fielded. You really are an architect of this USL2 team. So I want to make sure people have the time to really know your name, know your face about this kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit about the work that you do in, across soccer, but also Columbus specifically. But what yeah, what led you really into this USL2 space?
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm our general manager for Columbus United. And on top of that, I work for our parent company. So we have a sports management company called PMI. It is a family group. So it's our family that does this. And part of that is we have an investment group. So we invest in teams all across the world, men's, women's, indoor, outdoor, all about growing the sport. And then we have a servicing group. So we have it for our own teams, but then teams will hire us to come in and help them if it's for launching the clubs or to help them keep going year after year. So it's really exciting to be able to work in, so many different markets across the country and across the world. My focus is mostly with the teams in the US, this fourth tier level of US soccer, and then obviously Columbus United.
Right, huge. And I mean, it's a huge part. I see some of the teams that you guys have had involvement in, the Denton Diablos, it's Columbus United, like you talked about. There's a team in Napa Valley. I mean, it seems like there's 7 or 8 teams that you guys have, whether it's interest or certain help that you guys help with. I mean, the one that really came to my mind was Lynchburg, in USL2 right now, and those initiatives that are going on to create the crest with the colors that are all involved. Yeah, I mean it just looks fantastic. Like why this fourth tier of the US market, I guess.
Yeah, so we have and teams that I work with, there's 14 teams across the US that I'm a part of. Um, and so, but we love this fourth tier soccer because this is the level where it's about player development. So helping the players develop, it's a lot of college age guys, there's a few young professionals. It's a executive development. So we have lots of interns. We have a huge intern program where they'll come work for us. We'll help them develop, help them figure out what they love to do in the sport, and then help them go out and find a job. And if they're super, super amazing, we'll keep them and we'll hire them ourselves. And then it's all about that grassroots marketing. So they're community clubs. This is what you see in Europe. This is what you see everywhere else. These clubs they mean more to their community than having to drive an example in Columbus, and I do it. I drive up to Atlanta United games and I will do it forever. And so, but if you don't want to drive an hour and a half, you can drive 10 minutes down the road instead. So, in the community that you care about, so all of our teams, they're all about community initiatives. So we call it a boomerang effect.
Mhm.
Um, we'll do a lot into the community. Those fans will come out to our games, and then it's just, a boomerang to just keep helping each other out. And so we use this level of soccer to create cool partnerships and work with nonprofit organizations to be able to give back. And we see it, on game days when we have, 120 kids from the Boys and Girls Clubs at our games for field trips. And so it's exciting to see.
I mean, I think, and it's what I've seen at least over the last 2 years of working in and around with some of these teams. I'm from New York, so I'm a little further distinct from
Mhm.
Columbus and Denton and maybe the markets that you guys have more experience in. But I mean, looking at like the Westchester Flames and FC Motown, yeah, a huge part of it is getting the younger audience and getting the families out to these games and making them family environments. And I mean, it's so crucial to be able to have these community-based clubs because if you're creating this organization that's distinct from the people that you're trying to cater to, you've already got this divide before you've even played a game. How are you guys going? And whatever you know about some of the other teams that I know that the family company is involved in, but really specifically Columbus United, how do you make sure that you're staying ingrained within this Columbus community so that have people thinking that the first thing off the top of their head is going to drive the hour for Atlanta United when they've got soccer right in their backyard?
Yeah, and so it's we do, I mean, about one or two community events every other day. And
Mhm.
so especially in season, it's all about getting our guys to go out there. Obviously when we have the players in town, it's a lot more exciting than having me or someone else from our front office staff going out. But the kids love that too. So, in June, it's every Monday, the boys are at the Boys and Girls Clubs. So they go for 2, 3 hours. They'll go and play kickball, foosball, football, basketball. Um, Sometimes soccer. More times than not, they don't. They're playing basketball or something else. But it's a really cool program that we launched in Lubbock, Texas, and now we've duplicated it to all of our markets. And so, going every Monday or whatever day it may be for us, it's Mondays. Getting the kids to, then they can go out to the games on the Wednesdays or Saturdays.
Right.
It's a really cool program to see the players' development off the field a little bit more because they have to, get out of their bubble a little bit. But
Mm.
um, on those Saturdays, it's when those kids start screaming the players' names, the guys love it. And then the kids, it's vice versa. They're like these athletes, if they're semi-pro, but to these kids, they're full professional. I mean,
Right.
they're not messy. They're just professional.
Mm.
And so these guys remembering their names, it's just you see the connection and it means so much. And so we do that with a bunch of different groups and organizations. The YMCA's in town, they do summer camps. The city does summer camps, Salvation Armies. So all of our teams work with different groups similar to that. Um, just larger nonprofits that are well known. We do a lot with the Ronald McDonald Houses,
Right.
um, obviously Salvation Army, Boys and Girls Club. So it's about working with those groups, then connecting with the local nonprofits as well, and then attending, anything and everything around town. If there's a market going on uptown Columbus, we'll be there. And it's going to be a meet and greet. You can meet the players. We'll do events at all of our sponsor locations. Scofflaw Brewing's a huge partner of ours. We're there at least once a week just to do, meet and greets. Fans love to come out, grab a beer. We'll have Club World Cup on or something going on, and you can just hang out. And so it's a cool opportunity where players and fans get to meet each other a little bit more.
Huge.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's very accessible. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's two things that come to mind with just this thought that you brought up too. Like, it's a lot of the non-soccer stuff that I think makes these kinds of community clubs work, or these
Mhm.
areas that aren't necessarily in Atlanta or New York or LA. Like, when did you first come to the realization that these were the off the field aspects that needed to be a part of the club to make it successful? And secondly, on that, how do you get the boys to be, or well, the men's and women's team, or really the players to be able to be invested in this? Because sometimes perspective can shift to just be, oh, I gotta go to the Boys and Girls Club for a little while.
Mhm.
And, you've got to change that narrative sometimes. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to hear about how, what those two parts really entail for you.
Yeah, so launching a team in Lubbock, Texas. So I went to Texas Tech,
Right.
graduated sports management, stayed in Lubbock to then launch the Lubbock Matadors. And that is not a soccer market per se. It's a youth soccer market where, your kids are 5, 6, 7 years old, they're going to play, but they don't have, I mean, they do now, just now that they're launching. I mean, we launched a youth club and academy, but there was only rec soccer in Lubbock, Texas. And
Mm.
so it's not a soccer market, it's high school football, Texas Tech athletics. Um, Outside of that, there wasn't much to do, but there was also an opening in that gap in the summertime. So
Mm.
we found we just need to have a really cool event and we just need to get people invested that it's not soccer related. You just come out, you're going to enjoy your time. And then, the home opener, the mayor at the time didn't know how many players were on a soccer field.
Mm.
But he loved the fact that you saw everyone from the community at this one event. And so our fans too, and I remember this, and it was, we had some fans cheering when the other team scored. So it was just, it's not a soccer market per se. Now it is. I mean, we're going into, I think we're about to head into year 4. And so it's now becoming a huge soccer market, but it was just creating a cool event, getting people invested in the community side of it first. And then we figured it out, even if it is a soccer market, that's how you're going to grow. You're going to get those soccer supporters coming out no matter what.
Mm.
They're going to want to come out and they're going to want to support their local team and watch local talent or even guys that you bring in from all over the country, all over the world. But if you get them, more people invested from those non-soccer elements, that's what's going to sell it.
Huge.
And then
Yeah.
sorry, on the player side too, it's
Mm.
we're all about, there's a million great players in this world.
Mm.
Um, the talent is it's there. There's a lot of talent. So we're more about the players off the field and on the field. But so I work really closely with our coach here in Columbus. He finds really good guys on the field. He also knows these guys. He knows their college coaches. He knows he's watched them play. I mean, Brett teaches one of those coaches that no matter what, I mean, he's a well-known name. He's talented as all being. And so he's good at finding those great players that also have the great culture. And then we just enforce that culture throughout the summer. So off the field, I mean, I want players who are committed to the cause and, growing the sport and growing this game in this town more so than wanting to sit at home and do nothing. So that's the kind of players that we bring around for all of our clubs. So it's really important for us to find good people.
Yeah, and it's evident. I mean, exactly like you're talking about, you've got to find the right fit for this club. You have to have people who are willing to do the non-soccer things to want to be a part of the community, whether it's Lubbock, Texas, or Columbus, Georgia, whether between the two of them. And I know I go back between the two of those. Those are the ones that I've known, how I've become familiar with you guys. And I mean, again, the 14 kinds of clubs, I can't imagine how much, your head is spinning, at least just being a part of the club. Even if Columbus was the only one that you had involved in, because I'm sure that there's still communication between the clubs and everything else. But I mean, it just seems like something that is huge and will continue to develop for this youth, for this semi-pro, soccer development in the U.S.
Yeah. And like you said, you've seen it. I mean, Lynchburg, we recently launched. We're just growing more and more and
Mm.
finding those, important markets that they're meaningful to us, but then also could use something like this to bring people together and to need something that can organize the community a little bit more on the soccer side, but then also to be able to give back to the community as well. So, Lynchburg is a great example of that, even from the beginning doing the voting campaign. We created 6 really cool brands. We're putting it out there for the fans to vote. We did that with Columbus. We've done it with the Annapolis Blues. So we're all about fan involvement with everything we do. We're about to do a mascot voting campaign here in Columbus. So it is the fans team. It's 100% what it needs to be.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so sick, and that like these kinds of teams are case studies for future organizations. This is the way that you make these community-based teams to allow this voting, to allow the fan input, and it just grows the attachment between the fan and the city and the club, and it's just like I said, it's a case study. It'll be a paradigm example.
And at the end of the day, it's truly just a win-win situation there. It's for the fan, they have full involvement. This is their club. They
Yeah.
have, the ability to be a part of every step of the way. It's not like we just threw a brand out there and said, here it is, support
Mhm.
us.
Right.
Because in return, now we have all these fans that are fully committed because these are the brands that they voted for. This is the mascot they voted for. This is, every step away something that they're a part of, and we have a full open locker room policy with our fans. I am a true open book with everything that we do. Maybe sometimes a little too much, but I'm 100% okay with that.
Yeah.
And so it's anything we do we're open to our fans about, and then vice versa, if they all have input we're gonna 100% use that. Because I mean, for example, Lubbock, we have a 6 foot bull mascot, and he's
Oh,
was my first mascot I created. And I mean, he's my favorite thing ever. His name's
mm,
Notorious. Um, and he's a fun one. He's all around the community year round, hard to miss him. I mean, he's got red eyes and shockingly isn't frightening. But um,
okay.
the fans, I mean, they create the community kit. So he has his own jersey. And so the fans, we had one fan who has purchased every single merchandise item from us from day one to now. And it is absolutely amazing. He'll post on Facebook just all of his stuff, all the scarves and the jerseys and the t-shirts, the hats. And we absolutely love his support. And he's been, we've taken in his word, everything from day one on stuff we need to be doing. But he created the Bulls jersey, and that's our community kit that we now sell.
Nice. Like it's just certain thing. I don't know if you were expecting those kinds of things to end up coming up where you have that super fan. Like, how do you, a lot of these decisions you've got to make on the fly. Like when you realize that someone like this is so passionate, like how do you make sure that there still is that involvement and making sure that the input's felt?
I mean, it's 100%, like you said, a lot of the stuff does come up on the fly. I mean,
Oh,
I got asked this morning for our team to be able to do something on Friday, and we're going to make it work. Um, but I think that's what's exciting about this level of soccer too, is you can do stuff like whenever you need to. You can, if I really wanted to create a fan wants to create a fun jersey for, our last home game of the season. I mean, maybe it's not one that they wear on the field, but maybe it's, warm up or something. Or at
Sure.
FC, we did the warm up for the Open Cup, and it was the hairy chest Sasquatch jersey. Like it
Right.
was, it's just coming up with really cool stuff, and being able to be open to crazy ideas, and we're all about it.
So I gotta ask though too. I mean, when you're looking at analyzing some of these markets for where soccer teams are going to be successful, obviously you've done it with Lubbock. You'll continue to do it with Lynchburg, Annapolis. That's a kind of team that I see end up being very big. Well, it's already huge for that area, but I see it continuing just to grow on the national scale. It will be one of the premier USL2 teams mentioned like the Des Moines Menace or the Flint City Bucks, the Vermont Green. That's where I see it really even now. I mean, when you look at some of these areas and trying to figure out where to put all this investment, all this time into certain areas of this team being successful, what are some of those things that you're looking for?
The first is and we do have an ongoing list, and it's a shared notes app that everyone in our family and our staff has, all of our front offices. And so if there's a market that seems interesting, we just put it in there, and it
Okay.
could be adding it at anytime, anywhere, but adding it with some information on what its meaning is. All these markets mean something to us, though, as a family. And so Lynchburg, that's where my mom went to college. Annapolis, Maryland, that's where my grandparents and great grandparents moved here from Greece. And so they were part of building Annapolis, Maryland. Columbus, Georgia is where my dad was born. He was an Army brat. So he was born and raised at Fort Benning. And so all these markets, Texas Tech, Lubbock, Texas, they mean something to us. And then obviously the business side of it needs to make sense.
Right.
Um, is there a sports market out there? And if not, like example of Lubbock, or is there a soccer market? And if not, is there a sports market?
Mhm.
Um, and the whole sports rallying behind Texas Tech athletics, of course, you're going to get the rally behind a team at that fourth tier level. And so being able to get fans involved and are there really cool organizations in the area? Is there, really cool stadium that would work for where you want to play? We have a list of things that we check through, but it always starts with, is it meaningful to us? And then is it a good sports market or a market that needs a club like this to be able to elevate the game or to elevate the community?
Right. And how fun is it that you have these locations that were so impactful and meaningful to your own family and have been able to make so many of them work already? Like it's something that's huge, especially with Annapolis, Lubbock, Columbus, and Lynchburg now too. I mean, huge.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And before I came to work for Columbus, and it was after I mean, I'm still working for Lubbock and with Lubbock, but there was a last summer, so it was the 2024 season. I got to just go and help all of our teams. So it was so fun being able to go back in those markets, being able to work game days for each team, being able to have meetings with our partners that I've been virtually working with. It was a lot of fun. Um, just being able to be back in all those different markets.
And even too, I mean, I don't think there's any shortage of having these markets that will work for this semi-pro soccer. Like even Texas Tech that doesn't have a men's program, but they've got a women's program. And there's a lot of passion that's around there. I've interviewed Peyton Parsons before, who's on the Texas Tech team. Fantastic player, and that's Big 12 soccer. So that is no joke. Big 12 women's soccer is fantastic. And it was a pleasure to watch like over the last, I mean, really year and a half, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I even look at some of the USL2 markets. They've got that picture on that about section, and it's what I think about pretty frequently. But you've got, I mean, so much of this open market I mean, and it would take a lot of time really to be able to have teams in those areas and new divisions and a lot of investment. But Montana and North Dakota, South Dakota, there's nothing quite there on that semi-pro level. And, I can only imagine what you guys are thinking. I don't want to go too far into like, again, the notes app and everything else, but I gotta imagine that there's some kind of thought of seeing what's out there like in that Northwest area. Huge.
There's so much opportunity potential. And like you said, you could have, a team in and I like to, in different markets, like Columbus is, a second market to Atlanta in this area. I mean, it's the second largest city in Georgia, but it's it is a smaller market. And so Lubbock, Texas is a smaller market than the DFW area. So in a lot of those different cities, there are huge opportunities there. I think where you have a huge collegiate sports presence, you could have a great team there. I mean, we saw it with Lubbock, and um, I have, a list of markets I would love to work in. And so, and just from, I may have learned about those markets because I went to an SEC game or a Big 12 game
Right.
somewhere, but there's so much opportunity and potential just to have, community teams everywhere. And I mean, we see it, like I said, overseas. There's a way to make it all work. And um, that area of the country for sure has so much potential and opportunity. And
And
I'm excited to see that part grow.
yeah, and it's almost like the US is at a disadvantage almost with it being so huge where you can't quite have your Lubbock team go to play a team in you can't have your not never mind them being in different leagues, but you can't have your Columbus team play your team in Annapolis and make that work like within 2 days. And it's unfortunate only because you can't have that little part, but there's still so many benefits of being able to provide this service and this entertainment aspect to so many different parts of the community. It's of the US really.
For sure. And that fourth tier level, I mean, it's busing leagues. Um,
Mhm.
and Columbus last year we were in the MPSL, we made it to the Final Four. But to play the South Region Championship game, we had 3 days notice and we had to go to Midland, Texas, which is south of Lubbock. So Columbus made it out to Midland. And it was during when all the flights and everything were getting canceled. So we flew there, having to bus guys back. But I mean, like I said, back to having good people involved, the players loved it. They were like, this is, they're on a high from the just winning and, you won the South
Right.
Region Championship, it's so exciting, but they were all just good people overall. I'm like, I can get 9 people on a flight. And they're like, no, we'll all take a bus. Like, we're a team. We're gonna travel as a team. And I was like, okay. I mean, love it. Like, I love it. So
Yeah.
it's being able to have good people like that involved. But like you're saying, that doesn't make sense for regular season games.
Mhm.
It's close to impossible to be able to make that work financially and logistically to find out your schedule and having to go Wednesday somewhere, Saturday somewhere else. And that's what our schedule this season for Columbus United has been. It's 8 games in 4 weeks.
Wow.
So
I mean, even go back on that story with some of these players. It goes back to what you're saying. Like you have these group of guys that, I mean, and I don't want to go as far as to say that there are no egos really within this building, that you don't have people that want to travel distinct from the team. They want to be with their guys, whether it was a win or a loss. And I mean, I have no doubt that you even had some guys that were, even if it was a loss, that they wouldn't want to just go take the flight and be away from their from their boys. And it's just something that's fantastic. I want to ask though too, like, you mentioned the NPSL the transition from NPSL to USL2 with the Columbus team. Like when you look from on the outside, you see two semi-pro organizations in that fourth tier of US soccer, but there's always a reasoning behind the kinds of things that you guys do. What was the transition for to make it into the USL2 system?
yeah, so having so many teams in so many markets, and I put the league for clubs kind of at that fourth tier level as well. So we
Sure.
have teams in all three of those. And it really just means which market or which league works best for those markets. So for Columbus United, the travel for in the markets that we play against, it made more sense to be part of USL2 because now we're playing Atlanta. Columbus can't stand Atlanta. Now we're playing, Birmingham and Montgomery and Dothan, and these are all driving distance markets. Last year, our closest game was, I believe, 3 or 4 hours away, and so now our closest game's an hour away. So fans can travel, and vice versa. We had probably 300 people from Dothan come out to the game in Columbus. And so now you get to create more of those rivalries and to work closer together with these teams. Um, and so, but then in other markets, like it makes sense to be in the MPSL because of those, the distance and the teams that you're playing against. And same thing with the League for Clubs. And all three leagues are brilliant and they all do great things. And I mean, I love being a part of all of them because I truly do love what each league is doing to grow the sport.
Yeah, and it's those kinds of decisions that maybe someone on the fan perspective, not quite knowing what that travel ends up looking like, you guys have to do the smartest thing for the club. And make the burden a little easier for travel for the players and I mean you guys trying to coordinate it all.
Yeah, and I mean the competition on the field's very similar. It's,
Mm.
it's competitive, it's talent, but it is off the field. If we can get our supporters group in Columbus and the supporters group in Dothan to be able to work together off the field, that means something a little bit more. And then same thing, we have teams in the NPSL and the DFW area. They're able to work closer together because they're now partners. They're partners off the field and on the field. But it helps when you're closer and it's not quite a distance between you. Um,
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what else is going on. I mean, you mentioned how many fans from Dotham came out to a Columbus game? Two, 300, you said?
300 people. It was amazing.
So like, I gotta imagine you guys end up getting 1,000 people a game to come out to see Columbus soccer. Like that's a huge number.
And I'm excited to go. I'm going on the away trip to Dothan for that game because
Wow.
I mean they get, a couple thousand fans and I'm
Really?
super excited to see that and to know that I mean that's, our goals are ultimately to get to that level of fandom and uh, can't wait to get there. But I'm excited for that game because on the field it was very competitive. It was a
Right.
great match to watch, and then being able to be part of the entire experience, the tailgating scene, to being able to meet all the people that I have been virtually working with too in person, and it's a less than a 2 hour drive away, and so I may just hop on the team bus and
Yeah.
and
Huge.
take that quick trip over there. Yeah.
So sick. And I mean, yeah, I think it's fun too, and I see this also at the professional level, but everyone in these front offices, at least at League One, and you could tell me maybe more with NPSL, USL 2, and the League for Clubs, but at the USL 1 level, I know so many of these owners want to see these teams stick around. Maybe they want to beat, maybe they want to give each other the business on the field and just go ahead and get those wins and be able to be successful clubs, but they don't want to see teams go away or not be able to work out because of financial reasons. They want to be able to compete and they'll, coordinate and they'll help out with certain things and they'll support each other. Maybe it's not financially, but with, just being there for a phone call if it is something for advice. Like, what does that look like in your experience, but also with PWI as well?
Yeah, so it's 100%, you want the sport to grow. I mean, we're all investing our time, energy, money into this sport to be able to grow it because we all are super passionate about it. If we've played or if it's just something that we've, grew up that's been a family item or whatever it may be, everyone wants the sport to grow. And the NPSL has this brilliant saying, and it's your competitors for 90 minutes on the field, but your business partners off the field. And
Mm,
that will forever be embedded in everything I do because obviously you want to win on the field, but you want to be business partners off the field. You want to be able to grow together. I mean, being able to work with, and Montgomery is a great example, is, Montgomery doesn't come here technically for in season, doesn't count as a USL2 game, but they're still coming out to be able to grow our fan base
mm,
and our fandom back and forth and to be able to work together. And so next year when we go to Montgomery, let's get, a bus of people to go over there of our fans. And so it's being able to work together off the field as well as, being competitors on the field. And these guys, you see them after the games too. Some of them play college soccer together. Some of them,
right.
we're all friends. They're competitors on the field, but off the field, they're still friends. And so I absolutely love that saying that the NPSL has.
Yeah, huge. And it rings so true, especially as each new year passes. You've got new clubs that are coming up. I mean, I say that again, going back to Lynchburg as well, but you have new teams that pop up in each of these leagues every year. And so these relations continue to develop, the sport continues to grow. And I mean, I remember seeing I'll give an example, at least like way back when I was younger. But I remember when the Las Vegas Golden Knights became a team in the NHL, and that expansion draft and seeing how that goes, and I was obsessed with it. And then now I get to see these new expansion teams come up as I'm older and watching all of these grow, seeing these business relationships form, and how each of these different clubs operate with different strategies, but all aim toward that same goal of success and growing soccer in the region. It's interesting.
And I love it. And you see it, like you're saying, sports across the board. I mean, um, it's always been a business, and now it's being more showcased as a business,
Mhm.
in a great lighting. And it is truly, you want to it is your competitors on the field, on the court, whatever, but off the field, your business partners because you want to work together. You see it at even the early days MLS, and that's my dad, before we started doing this family group and this family business, he was, working in the MLS. He was early days MLS, started DC United, did Colorado Rapids, LA Galaxy, ended up being the president and general manager of FC Dallas, and their facilities. But it was truly just, there was a point where they were sharing staffing between teams. And it was, the MLS staffing was working for all the teams too, and they were all combined. And I mean, you look back too at the ownerships of the teams, early days, when they first launched, it was, a few guys owning a bunch of teams. And so being able to then continue those teams to grow together and to grow it's really just about growing the sport because if the game is growing in Miami, it's growing in Columbus too because it's growing in Miami.
Interesting.
And vice versa to where, if Atlanta United's winning and doing great, we're winning and doing great too
Mhm.
because, we're in the same state, we love the same sport, and, we have fans that overlap. And so um, it's great to see just, how everything works together, but it's all about, being great business partners. And you go to, the US Soccer Convention, US Coaches Convention, and everyone's working together. They're all coming up with strategies for the following year. And if
Mhm.
it's, people from the USL and the MLS and, NPSL and whoever it is, it's everyone in one room and we're all just talking and coming up with cool ideas. So it's a lot of fun to see.
Huge. So, I mean, I've got a couple of the little things, and admittedly, it'll help me out a little bit. But any of the young people who are also, I mean, we have a huge college audience, and a lot of them were in the same position that you were 2 or 3 years ago, graduating college and seeing what else is out there in the sports area. I mean, looking for someone who wants to be in this management side, this business side of sports, of soccer specifically, who are the kinds of people that you're looking to have interns within the family group, but also, what do you look for in those interns to maybe ultimately offer them that full-time offer like you talked about?
Yeah, and so something that I've learned from my dad or even, the early MLS buddies that he's still friends with that I still go to for questions on anything, if it's player personnel to, fan activation or whatever it may be. Which is great that I have this ecosystem of amazing people who love the sport and are all about it. They all will say the same thing and they'll be in separate rooms and say the same thing, but they're always saying be a sponge and just be proactive. So no matter what, ask questions, be a part of the conversations. Everyone in sports is an open book as long as you want to be part of it. I mean, 100% when I interned with DC United, if I didn't give any effort, they weren't going to let me in, those
Right.
meetings. But if I showed effort, I was, on game days, if they told me to run laps around the stadium, I would have done it in a heartbeat. Not that they did that, but if they
Mhm.
did, I would 100% do it. Um, but it's, just being a sponge and wanting to be a part of what's going on. And everyone's going to be more receptive to bringing you into the conversations that you want to be a part of. Not being scared to do things outside of what may be in your job area. In sports, especially in soccer, it's still a growing game in this country. A lot of things are done by committee. You may just be a ticket salesperson, but um, sometimes you may have to go and help with merchandise, and sometimes you may have to go help with um, player personnel stuff. Like it's not being stuck to your certain job descriptions. It's, being able to be flexible to help out everywhere. And it's, overall, maybe you find out you love something different too, especially if you're going through those intern, early days, um, you know, beginning different positions, being able to learn what you truly love. But and you just have to have fun with it. Being able, if you're sold on what you're working on, you're gonna love everything for the rest of your life. I mean, hearing I work for 14 teams sounds like a lot, but I truly don't feel like I work a day in my life because it's fun. I get to do it with family. I get to, my coworkers and all the people I work with, we've become family too because, sports is personal, business is personal, obviously family's personal. And so me being able to have all of that in one, it's just something really meaningful. And so being able to find your area in the game is once it clicks, it really does click. But
And so
100% just being a sponge and being open and, understanding and wanting to work hard
huge.
and have fun.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys certainly do a lot of both. I mean, just working in sports and everything that goes on in between it. I don't know how many other times I could really reiterate that. I feel like I've been saying it over and over, but that really just seems to be a theme of the kind of work that you guys do.
Yeah, it's all about if you can feel good at the end of the day and you're doing something you're passionate about and you love, I mean, you're doing pretty good in life. Yeah.
And so give me a little background on, maybe not background, but what's in the future for this Columbus United team. Not quite things that are behind closed doors and we can't know about just yet, but even for the rest of this season, what's next for you? What else could people of Columbus look forward to for this club? But also, I mean, really the people watching USL too and wanting to see this team succeed.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the cool and exciting stuff coming with the USL. Um, we are 100% going to be part of all of that. So just growing our club itself year after year. That's what's exciting. Having the, Men's World Cup next year, between the Club World Cup this year, Men's World Cup next year, the sport is growing. And so we're going to grow with it, on our men's side of the program. And then with the Women's World Cup coming in 2031 in the US, we will be bringing a women's team to Columbus, Georgia. So,
Nice.
uh, there's no specific details out there yet, but that is in the works right now. And um, there's a lot of really exciting stuff that's going to come along with that. So a lot of our teams are, going from if they're either have the women's, they're adding the men's, or starting with the men's, adding the women's. Across the board, you're going to see more growth on both sides, especially leading up to the Women's World Cups.
Wait, so is that breaking here on an episode that Columbus Georgia's
I,
getting the women's team?
I may have hinted at it before, but it may it may have been just official.
Okay. Well, congratulations. I mean, a huge step for the club. That's fantastic. So actually, here's the other thing. Do you think you guys, well, actually, no, you know what? Let me not dig further into that. I guess that's that remains to
Touch
be
on a few different points with it that I'm excited for, and we can see
okay.
maybe it covers what you're thinking.
Perfect. And you know what? I'll just wait and see for that. We'll leave everyone with that. Um yeah, I mean, Eleni, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I've loved being able to get this insight on the general manager's end. I guess yeah, I mean really the next thing, really is just to see what's to come for you guys, the family group, everything moving forward. Again, I've had the pleasure talking with you, and I'd like to thank you for your time. But if there's anything that we didn't quite get to, I'd leave the floor for you open now. But yeah. Thank you again for giving me 40 minutes of your day, and I'm looking forward to keeping up.
Yeah, thank you so much. And like I said, I mean, all the clubs in our group, and we're all open books. So if anyone does have any questions on, especially if you're wanting to get into the workforce, obviously looking for those internship opportunities is huge. A lot of teams do hire within, or they're going to call, everything goes on to Teamworks and other sites like that. But they will call, their friends and buddies, and us having this huge intern program between all of our teams. If someone is looking for an opening, they typically, reach out to someone that they know does internship programs. So, at the MLS level or at a level like this, it's all a lot of fun to be a part of. And that's what I would say getting into the game. But I mean, it's a beautiful game. So let's just keep growing it 100%.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to talk with you, and thank you again, Eleni.
Thank you so much.